Hello, hello. Welcome back to another episode of Foreign Takes. I'm your host, Mr. YT, alongside Mr. Big Lev and KG. How you doing, boys?
We're sitting pretty at the top of a table where we belong, looking down at you peasants.
Oh, look at him, KG. He's not talking shit as soon as he goes up.
Yeah.
I'm nothing to say. Nothing to say. No comment. No comment.
No comment. We might as well just jump into it because there was a lot of Premier League games finally over the international break. So I think probably the first game was Newcastle 4, West Ham 3. Mr. Moyes almost wants to get fired, it seems like. KG, you and I were chatting. This was a ridiculous game.
It was a ridiculous game in terms of the score line and in terms of the way the game moved. But like when it became 3-1, you and I were texting and we were like, Moise winning this, punishing how, doing this, doing that, and then he just have to be like, you just have to go and be like, no, I am Moise, and I'm not gonna let you give me any praise. Come on, Kalvin Phillips, come on, go on the pitch, go on the pitch, you piggy. He put him on the pitch, and the rest is history. Newcastle came back with 10 men. West Ham didn't do anything, and it again shows that Kalvin Phillips is the outstanding Moyes signing. It's the
Yes.
guy that he would want because he wanted McTominay, he wanted Harry Maguire, he wanted probably Calvin Phillips, and he cost them the game. And
Yeah.
if you look at the table, they're seventh. It's okay, like or eighth or whatnot. So it's a good season. It's West Ham, but just the way people throw away games, like not people, but West Ham throw away games. It's like you need to get sacked. Like, I just
Agreed.
don't.
I
Yeah.
looked at the timestamps. Calvin Phillips came on in the 69th minute. He made his first mistake. He lost possession in the 71st minute. He lost the second time possession in the 75th minute. And then he was directly responsible for the first goal conceded at the 77th. So not even 10 minutes later, he had lost possession 3 times. He was responsible for conceding the goal. And he was also responsible conceding the fourth goal. So that's all
Yeah.
a cameo of 15 minutes.
Question that I have is the follow-up question that I have is how did this guy get a call up for England when he was barely playing?
Oh, I'll tell you how he got a call up for England, because England's manager is a fraud and has no idea what he's doing. For Calvin Phillips, not only that he's like not technically great or a player, he has a disgusting mentality. Okay, he has stayed at City for like 2 years now, being content of never even seeing a pitch, not even being in a stadium, just collecting his paycheck and going. Literally, Guardiola told him, "You're not gonna play all year. I don't like you. You suck. Get out of here." And he was content of not going on loan. And then he goes to West Ham, costs them a game, and gets out of stadium and raises middle finger to the fans. Okay, bro, you're not like in a position to be raising middle fingers. You barely played. You did a terrible job. Have some humility. So,
Who's
yeah,
gonna buy him now? Who's gonna buy him now?
some
He's
some kind of like Big Sam Allardyce or another Moise, or like if Moise gets sacked and goes to like I don't know Burnley or
I-
something,
I'm
he'll
gonna tell
probably
you that
take him with you.
it's probably gonna be the third team who climbs up from the championship. They're gonna get him on loan, and he's gonna suck for them.
Similar to like Ross Barkley at Luton, right? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
they're gonna
But
take a
but
gamble.
put some respect
Yeah,
on Rose Barkley's name. Okay,
Agreed.
he's actually playing well for Luton. It's not a Jesse Lingard or Calvin Phillips situation. But
yeah.
can
And
we
Ross
quickly talk
Barkley
about?
had more than one good season under his belt. Like Calvin
Yeah,
Phillips just like wasn't a good
yeah.
signing for City, and he just refused to get better and adapt and put in any work. So
Yeah. Can
I
we
mean,
quickly talk about the penalty? The one that Newcastle got, the second one on the Anthony Gordon one, because I think that those types of penalties should be dismantled in the game because I don't think
ag-
that that's
agreed.
worth it. Yeah.
Agreed. For anyone who hasn't watched the two penalties, both by Gordon, essentially what he does is, as the defender is about to clear it, he plants his foot, he gets kicked penalty. I think the second one, KG and I were texting, it was so obvious he had no intention of winning the ball. His foot is planted in the opposite direction of the ball, so even if he didn't get kicked, it's physically impossible for him to get to the ball. It's backwards. Like he's facing the wrong direction and he planted, right? It's
He,
ridiculous.
he he put the foot in just for the sake of getting fouled, and I don't think that should be a penalty. The penalty should be a purposeful commitment of an act to stop you from scoring. That should be a penalty. But when Calvin Phillips doesn't see him, like in the defense of Calvin Phillips, he doesn't see his foot there. He's about to kick the ball, and then his foot appears there. He's not even looking at the foot. It's not like the foot appeared there and he made the conscious choice to kick it. It just appeared there and he couldn't see it, and Gordon put it specifically there for the penalty purposes. So I get by the book, it is like, oh, it's a penalty because he kicked him. His foot was first on the ball. But in reality, he was seeking for a penalty. There's no difference between this and a dive, in my opinion. But more and more in the current games, we don't see divers get any
Yeah, but
punishment.
like if you introduce this, now you're scrutinizing everything, man. It's gonna be again like you have to recheck every penalty a million times. Like, just don't
No,
foul
but
people in
but
the
it went to
box.
but if it went to VAR, and the VAR could have made that decision because they spent so much time reviewing it, they gave it at the end.
VAR
But
has made terrible decisions on smaller things, so it's the expectation that they would have made a good decision on this is, let's just say, naive.
yeah,
That's
but
true.
I'm just thinking that should be reversed in terms of the novel, not the novelty, but the approach to that type of a foul.
Yes, I think it's one of the changes they're going to probably have to do over the summer is they have to fix it because otherwise you're going to keep seeing this. People are just going to plant themselves in front, and it's going to happen again and
Because
again.
teams do that, and we're going to be talking about the United versus Brentford game later. But when the game doesn't, when the game goes against you, and I saw it against the Brentford players, teams do that when they seek for a penalty, and that should be
Yes,
stopped because that's where a yellow card for a dive comes in. Because if you stamp your authority and give a dive for a yellow card, they will stop throwing themselves on the ground. But teams do that because they know there's a VAR chance of a penalty, and that should be, I think, it's starting. This like notion of it is kicking off, and that should be prevented in its root.
agreed. I think it's going to be one of the few things that they have to fix it because it's getting worse and worse. And now that the players are catching on, especially the really quick players like Gordon, you can see that
Mm.
they're going to keep doing this more and more. Honestly, the other ridiculous game, there's several other games. Just moving on Saturday was Sheffield United versus Fulham, which was a crazy game. I was texting you guys at 1 second, it was 4-1 for Sheffield United. Less than 5 minutes later, it was actually 3-2 for Fulham because it was a disallowed goal. And then, really, Munoz has scored, I think, 5 goals in back to back games. And he scored an absolute stunning bicycle kick, scorpion kick, whatever you want to call it, deserved to be a winner, right? KG, you and I
Yeah.
were texting back about this. It was fantastic technique.
What a goal! What a goal! Banger! But yeah, Fulham deservedly win to Sheffield United, lose points. And what was a constant theme, speaking of this game as well, and the West Ham game, and many other games, is it something that me and you discussed? It's in our previous podcast, and even now, it's more evident that teams cannot hold a lead. Teams just cannot hold it. If it's 2 goals, if it's 3 goals in the Premier League, it's never over for the opposite team. They can come back and draw, win, and it's just frustrating to see because usually it wasn't the case. And yeah, it's entertaining and a lot of people watch it, but you get frustrated from a footballing perspective because that's where character is built. That's what a team is built,
Exactly.
in my opinion.
And you know, that's actually a good transition because another team that couldn't keep a lead was Chelsea Burnley. That game ended 2-2. And for anyone who hasn't watched it, it was actually Burnley were down to 10 men off a ridiculous red card and a penalty. And then Company also got sent off. And Chelsea were playing against 10 men for most of the game, had a 2-0 goal lead, and still ended up drawing 2-2 against Burnley. And in fact, should have lost. Chelsea is just embarrassing, right? Is there another word we can use? 1 point something billion spent, and they can't put a team. Only Palmer is the only one who's playing, essentially.
Yeah, I mean it's exactly the point they were at last season, and we said at the beginning of the season it seems like they've done the exact same thing last year. I don't know why Chelsea fans were expecting to be like some of them were expecting to compete for the title, and they're in the exact spot they were last year, playing terrible football, having too many players, having no clarity over their manager, and having no clarity on the direction of the club. So let's let's see if they're gonna spend another 500 million this
And
summer.
nobody mentions anything. They drew with the 19th ranked team who were 10 men down. It's just mind-boggling that that happens. Like that's just like there were so many games, and I thought to myself that at least 3 games that were sackable offenses. It's the Moise one, the Pochettino one, the Ten Hag one. That like sackable offenses.
Yes, I agree. And I think the only positive thing I saw in this game was that they finally Poch made one good decision, which was starting Mudryk instead of Sterling. I was surprised Mudryk had a good game. He was able to play more than 10 minutes. Of course, as soon as Sterling came, you could feel the boos begin to come, the murmurations. It's just the whole club is toxic, right? It's actually I know I shouldn't find happiness in it, but it makes me happy to see how toxic the entire club is from the top to the bottom. Like it's completely there's nothing positive in the entire club left.
Do you think it's a case of Americans don't know how to run a soccer club or a football club?
I think it's a case
No,
of both.
Americans are running some other football clubs pretty well. Liverpool owners are Americans and then set it up really well. It can't be like, oh,
Arsenal
it's just the
owners as well.
Americans. Yeah, well, for a while you were very unhappy with them, but
Oh,
sure,
For
yeah,
a while,
100%.
yeah,
for a
they were
while,
there.
Liverpool fans were also unhappy. They let's be honest, both Liverpool and Arsenal got very well accustomed by the owners because they selected good managers, and the
No,
managers give
no, the
this.
previous owners are really bad. This owners, in terms of how they wanted to set up, always have been very good at that, and they've been very good at what they've done with Anfield, and they've been very good at how they handled like contract extensions. So yeah, I mean, I fault them for not spending more and then having a weird transfer strategy this summer. But I think that was more about having like this weird 1 year director of football who was always gonna leave, who was just like not good at his job, rather than just the owners themselves being bad.
No, there's murmurings that Bowley is gonna be removed by the what?
2027.
Oh, that's
No,
what this is. Okay,
yeah, it's 2026, 2020. Like, it's not next year. It's in the next 2 years. So it's not going to be, like, he is going to step down. And so it's going to be like, this is going to go for a while for Chelsea. It's just, in terms of the Liverpool owners, something to say is that they're the creators of the Moneyball system. So it makes sense that they're good at running a sports franchise or a sports team because they already had this approach. They know how to approach it in the most efficient way, let's say. And, yeah,
but I
it'll
guess the
just
counter though is like I think we've talked about this, and in fact, Big Lev might have said this, but anyone with an ounce of football knowledge knew this system wasn't going to work. You getting rid of every existing player and every player above the age of 25 and only signing players below 23 doesn't it won't work, right? This is not
Yeah.
football manager, this is not FIFA. Like you actually have a continuation within your club. So I think the fact that Bowley hasn't come out and said, "Hey, I messed up," because it's not just that the team is set up badly now; it's also that because of FFP and PSR, they can't spend money now.
Yeah.
So it's like they can't rebuild and they can't use the current existing players. So what are they going to do? That's why they're
Well,
selling
they have
Gallagher.
to they have to do another like fire sale summer. You know, it's just it's not only about just the age gap, age range they're targeting. There's they have no strategy around positions and how they want the team to set up. They're just gonna sign like 7 wingers and let's see who's gonna showcase themselves the best in a 10-minute periods. I still believe if Mudryk went to Arsenal, he'd be 3 times the player he is now.
Agreed.
He's just in a terrible situation. Same, Nicholas Jackson shouldn't be a starting striker. He has the raw talent. It's just if he could grow into it for a couple of years, probably be a pretty decent Premier League striker. The only one that worked out despite this all bullshit is Palmer.
Palmer.
So good for him. It's
They
just
also got unlucky. They got unlucky with Nkuku. I think they got Nkuku, and I don't know why they
bro.
waited
It's
for
not
two
unlucky.
years.
It's one player got injured. Okay, half of the Liverpool team was injured almost the
No, no,
entire.
but he got an injury that ends a career. Like
Yeah, that's
his
true.
injury, it's
But his
Yeah, but
he's
position.
come
never
on.
gonna be the same as what they bought, and they bought him, and they waited for 2 years for some reason. And then I'm not saying that he would be a difference maker that they're gonna finish fourth. I'm just saying that they would probably not start to the point of Jackson. Nkuku would probably be starting as a striker, and he
But
tore his
Kuku is not a
ACL, and he's never.
striker, though.
He could play in that role. He could play as a false nine or up top, and then he's gonna be dropping
Yeah, but
down
like,
deep. But it's just another investment that they can't get rid of, and it's just a player that could have been impactful in some ways, and his career is over.
Yeah.
Like the tearing an ACL is like you're never going to be the same in footballing sense. So he's not back still, and has been gone. What they probably own him for 4 years, and he played 2 games.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy that
What Big Love was saying, I think if you look at just the striker position, So they had, starting the season, they had three strikers. They had Armando Broya, which was technically homegrown. They had David, who's now at Burnley, and of course they had Nico Jackson. And you look at who they have now. They chose the worst option, right?
Yeah.
They signed all of two of them to add on top of the one, and then they ended up with the wrong decision again. So it's just one of those things. It's like there's
But
nothing
I
to be
think
said.
that choice is up to the manager, right? So who he wants to keep. I doubt that the director of football, Todd Bowley, goes like, no, I don't like this guy. We're going to send him out. I think they asked Poch, who would you like to keep, and he kept Nico Jansen because that's the style of play that he wants to play.
Yeah,
And
that's a good
it's,
point. But
yeah,
Poch himself, though, when you look at it, the structure of the team is wrong, right? He has too many wingers who all try to do the same exact thing. He has too many center backs, none of whom can play with the ball, or Thiago Silva, who's even older than Poch. There's not. It's just the balance is off. So in many ways, I do feel bad for him. Um,
regardless, yeah, drawing with a 10-man Burley, it's a sackable offense.
yeah. The next game, that's the last game of Saturday to talk about, was Brentford versus Man United. So there's just one. The most obvious thing about this game was that United are lucky. I think there is the ghost of starter Alex Ferguson is still protecting them, because I have never seen a team concede 30 plus shots on target, not concede, and then go ahead and score on a counter. And KG, I think you have to admit, this was the luckiest point picked up by United. This was completely undeserved.
I texted you. I told you that the United are stealing a result here because they should have lost this game a long time ago. And on top of everything, the opportunities that Ivan Toney had and Wissa had, it was just in some of the programs that Ten Hag was talking about. He said like, "Oh, it's not this many shots is by design." So what they're doing is that they're defending in such a way that the shots that they're gonna be letting in are the crazy ones. And it seemed like that, like the Tony shots and the Wisa shots were difficult ones that like once in like if it goes in, it's a once in a 100 type of shot. Some of the opportunities that Tony had, except for that post, like he had the shot of like a cross in, and he had to. It was essentially making a one-time shot, sliding in, or Wisa's shot on that came in from a cross. That was very difficult technically to make and to score. My point being is I'm not agreeing that United are Marvel geniuses that they're letting this happen. My point is that this is by design, and it only makes sense that there's two things evident in this result. Either Ten Hag doesn't know how to solve the problem of an empty midfield, or he doesn't want to solve it. Both of which are terrifying. Okay,
Yes.
like understanding that a blind man seeing how many games they played, 28 games or 30 games, and seeing that Scott McTominay, Mino, and Fernandez do not work together. Mino cannot cope with it alone, and he's not a top six. He's not a like a six. He's not a CDM. He can't do it alone. You have Casemiro on the bench. First half, your midfield is flooded. It's empty. They're getting away with murder here. Put on Casemiro instead of McTominay. How McTominay finished playing the whole game is mind-boggling to me. Mind-boggling. It's either by design or he doesn't know how to solve it. Either way, he doesn't address the issue. That's the biggest point out of the game that you saw. That he doesn't address this issue and he just lets it be, and that's you won't get anywhere with that team. You're gonna get sacked.
I
That's
agree. You know, it reminds me in many ways of the early Liverpool, like in the beginning of the season when they were trying not Endo, McAllister at the six. They were trying the different combinations and it just wasn't working, but it felt like they were constantly adapting. The opposite is United, where he's just sticking to it, even though everyone and their blind cousin can see it's not working. I think that's the frustrating thing is like tactically, you're just like, why are you doing the same thing every single game? You are in the bottom
Yeah.
three, or I guess top three of shots conceded. It's taking its toll. Change something, experiments, change something. I think this is the benefit of Liverpool versus United is like he's just not addressing it in any shape
Yeah,
or form.
and
and
this is not your first year of this happening. Come on. You've had multiple chances to address it. You haven't really thought about it. I didn't see like any links towards a midfield reinforcement, so obviously it doesn't think that's a as big of issue.
to the point of last year, this is gonna sound crazy, but to the point of last year, they had Fred, who was actually helpful for this type of setup. There was a lot of leakage, but there was not as many shots because it was a pivot of Casemiro and Fred was the guy who was playing in between those empty holes. And yes, he was shit. He would give away the ball and he wouldn't track back all the time, and they would concede. But it wasn't that glaring of like, where is that empty midfield spot who is covering that. Whereas in these games, Scott McTominay sleeps forward. He's like, "Oh, I'm not gonna be doing this. I'm a number 8." So towards the end of the game versus Brentford, you saw Bruno Fernandes drawing deep and defending, which he's not really good at. And I've mentioned this over and over on our podcast. He is hindering the going forward momentum and his creativity, and he's not doing good at defensive jobs. So sometimes he doesn't track back properly, or he fouls and gives away free kicks. And especially in the game versus Brentford, that's critical because they're going to cross from a free kick and gotta have an opportunity, and that comes from Bruno Fernandes. And the stupidity of Erik ten Hag is that he doesn't do any game management changes. He doesn't address that issue. The only times he did subs is when Lindelof got injured and Varane got injured. That's when he started to adjust, and then he did a smart substitution of taking away Garnacho, who was with Argentina and flew in on Thursday and was half asleep, to put on Anthony, who, to his credit, was a little bit lively because he didn't go away to
Yeah,
with
that's
Brazil.
fair. That's fair. You know, it's funny you say Anthony. There was one moment because I was watching one of the international broadcasts where you know how sometimes the mics can pick up the managers or fans and stuff. There's just this 1 minute when Anthony doesn't track one of the Brentford players, and you could hear Eric Ten Hag screaming, "Anthony, fucking chase," in like a thick Dutch accent on my television. I'm just laughing, and Anthony's doing the laziest. He's doing the Rashford chase. You know, Rashford when he pretends to chase. It was just embarrassing. But I guess as far as United is concerned, they just have to survive till the end of the season, right? There's nothing to play for essentially at this stage.
So we're gonna do the
Well,
10 games later down our call or pod or whatever. But the point is that there is a chance of getting a top 5. Although I don't see getting them the top 5 with this type of game. But if they get a top 5 and get a Champions League spot with City or Arsenal progress, or Liverpool go to the final, that spot is gonna open up. I don't see anything, especially with him not addressing anything, and not even, especially now, as you know that there's nothing to play. There's only the FA Cup. Do some changes.
Yes.
Play Mino and Casemiro. I know Casemiro wasn't ready, but he substituted Mino with Casemiro. Like, it's mind-boggling. Like, how Scott McTominay is playing in this team. I don't like. I don't. It doesn't make sense. And one, if we cut it up in a short and post it on our social medias, people are going to be defending. He's your top goal scorer in your team. That doesn't change the way that he's supposed to be playing. It's you're putting a accountant to do a plumbing job. It's not. It's not working. Okay.
I
you,
like
you,
that.
you you don't want to play Brazilian. Sorry, you don't want to play the Scottish R9. Are you kidding me? Here's your goal machine. But yeah,
I
I don't understand why you have this amazing talent in Mainu, and why don't you play him along with Casemiro, and then your midfield is set. Like you literally like it's amazing midfield. Those
So
two and
Casemiro was
Bruno.
on and off. So Casemiro was on and off because he got injured, so he wasn't fully ready to play. So this is where the in-game management of Ten Hag comes in. Ten Hag comes in that it's wrong because you're seeing that you're being slaughtered. And it's 0-0. So if you really want to go for a win, you take off McTominay, you put Casemiro on, and you play Casemiro and Mino. And
Yeah.
then, if I was a manager, I would do, like, if I really think that Mino should get rested because he played too much, you take off Mino and you put Mason Mount because you have Mason Mount on. Instead of taking
Oh,
off
Mason
Rashford,
Mount
put him.
is back from dead.
He scored a goal too, by the way.
Ah.
Yeah.
Good finish with his off foot. But I have to say the balance was off because the formation, Big Lev, it was the 22nd minute, I think, or 20 something, and the formation was 4-0-6. You like
Yeah.
literally see when they attack, there's no midfield. There's just nothing. It's just 4 defenders, nothing, and then 6 strikers
Dude,
essentially.
Mino is
Mason
stuck
Mason
alone.
Mount is United's Kai Havertz, just like a completely unnecessary signing that they overpaid for.
Come on, put some respect on Kai Havertz's name, okay? Kai
Yeah,
Havertz played some games and scored some
Yeah,
goals. When
at
Mason
least
Mount
Kai
was
Havertz
injured,
played. Yeah,
yeah,
he
that's
scored a
true.
goal.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
But
if
that's
he
true.
wasn't injured, you'd probably expect the same output as Kai
but
Havertz. It was just like
again,
it's head scratcher signing. Not that
yeah,
Yeah.
Mason Mount is bad. It's just like
to the point of him being a head scratcher signing from an outside perspective, the way it was marketed and explained to Manchester United fans is that, oh, Ten Hag wants to play a double pivot of Mount and Fernandes, and Mount is going to be doing this job, or Fernandes is going to be doing this job when they're going to be dropping back, doing the Fred role. And today was the first time Mount was ready to play off the bench, and he came in as a left winger, which he can play. Nobody says that he can't play on left wing, but he didn't come in to do the job that he was supposed to do or he was marketed to do. And again, I don't understand the logic behind it because the problem of this hole in midfield is not addressed, and Ten Hag doesn't see an issue with that, and he's fine with a draw. So if this continues, he's gonna get the sack. And
Yeah.
good luck to anyone who gets him, because clearly you can see that he is what Big Left used to previously say. It's a stubborn manager who does his way or the highway, and it seems like he is stubborn to be like, this is how it's going to work. Mason Mount or Scott McTominay with Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro or Mino alone should be able to cover it. And if we concede 30 shots, fine by me. Allah will cover us, essentially.
That's a good mic drop moment. We should move on to talking about the top of the table, I think, which was Liverpool played today.
Top
They
of the
beat.
table.
I
We
think you
are
guys
the
could
top
tell
of the table.
who won between
Top of the
Liverpool.
table.
Big Lev, Liverpool, Brighton. It's a little scary, shaky start with Welbs scoring a goal for Brighton, but
Yeah, fucking Welbs just getting lucky once in a lifetime. Annoying.
But Liverpool obviously started really, especially after like halftime, they really grounded. But a solid win, right? It's just like you guys did the business. On to the next game. It felt like.
Okay, two observations that I wanna reinforce that I made before. First of all, McAllister signing of the season for 35 million. Man is running the show. Yeah. You can shake your head all you want, you Kai Havertz simp. Okay,
Signing of the season is either
bro, for
Jude Bellingham or
35
Declan
million,
Rice.
It's a
Jude
really
Bellingham is great. Like, I'm talking about Premier League.
Declan Rice.
Declan Rice costs 70 million more than McAllister.
Still.
Is not doing anything more than
Okay.
McAllister. Okay,
McAllister is gonna die off in 2 years. The Rice is gonna be Arsenal's stakeholder for the next 10 years. Okay.
How old do you
other
think McAllister is? He's 24, bro.
Yeah, he looks 45 though, I will admit.
Yeah.
What is your second observation?
I'm telling you, Zerbi is not the manager for Liverpool. All first half, he was seeing McAllister and Connor Bradley finding Salah in those over-the-top passes or the passes, and there was always one Brighton defender who was not springing the offside trap. He did nothing to address that. Look at the second goal; it was the same thing over again. They got lucky multiple times with Salah just taking not great shots or not passing to wide open Nunes, and he did nothing to address that. It was the same. It was not even like they were not playing deep defense, but their whole thing was like, okay, let's see if we can spring another counter attack. But then when Liverpool were attacking, there were wide open spaces for us. So he did nothing to address that after the first half. So I don't consider him like a top level manager.
That's a fair point. They were very stubborn. Like I will give you that, but there was one or two moments. It felt there was definitely tension, right? I could see the body language, especially Van Dijk, especially defending corners. It definitely felt like Liverpool were tense, and this is the first time I've seen them in a long time. It felt like there was a desperation in the air between the fans, the players, that they had to get this win. So it feels like the squeaky bum time is really beginning to impact the players too.
Yeah.
Despite the win, it definitely felt like an edgy win. It wasn't a comfortable win in any shape or way anymore.
Well, no, it's not. Brighton is still a tough team to beat, and I think this is the first time we beat Zerbi. Usually he sets up for a draw very well.
Yeah, that's true.
And now it's we're ahead. We played before Arsenal and City, so we have a little bit of a cushion, and it's I think that's gonna help ease some nerves.
How do you feel about Big Lev, about Javi Alonso saying that I'm staying at Bayern Leverkusen because he was your number one choice, and now that's gone?
I mean,
What's your feeling?
disappointed if he actually stays for another season at Leverkusen. I understand, and that's cool. I respect the decision to see them through the Champions League, see what else he can get for that year. But if it's August or it's July and he decides to join Bayern Munich, that's gonna be the most cowardly piece of shit move, because it's you're not taking Liverpool job because it's harder both to win something at Liverpool and to follow in Klopp's footstep. You're taking the most trodden path of doing something in Germany and then join Bayern Munich, where you're probably guaranteed to win Bundesliga, because unless it's once in 10 years, Borussia or Bayern or Stuttgart or someone's gonna just do something.
Don't forget Granite.
Yeah.
Graffiti.
Wolfsburg,
Whatever.
Otherwise, you're guaranteed like a domestic double at least.
Yeah.
Then it's a lazy and uninspired decision. But if he stays at Bayern, good for him, man.
So my opinion is, I think that what he's doing is that he wants that Real Madrid job, and he was
Maybe.
commenting on it. He was saying that, oh, Madrid is always like home, blah 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 before, and now like since Ancelotti stayed for another year, I think that's why he's like, I'm gonna stay for another year in Bayern Leverkusen, and then see if Madrid wants me. I'll go to Madrid. If not, you never know. Maybe Manchester City's gonna open up, Pep is gonna retire,
I mean,
or
the
Man
other
United.
alternative is
Something's gonna
also
happen.
Liverpool, also, right? Because we've seen this
Yeah.
many
maybe.
times. Because the bounce back manager, the first manager after a long, is always it's
Yeah.
never where Moyes did it or Emery did it. There's
Yeah.
always like a tough time. So it might actually end up being that it's
Yeah.
still Liverpool.
you-
It's just 1 year later.
Are you doubting the credibility of David Moyes, the guy who crosses in the ball 50 times a game to score a goal?
With
Yeah.
Tim Cahill as your striker. I mean,
Yeah.
I think
Not Tim
Liverpool.
Cahill. Put respect on Marwan Fellaini's name. He retired recently. But yeah.
We're not going to even talk. Let's just talk about the last game, which was billed as the best game. Super Sunday, Sky Sports was City 0, Arsenal 0. One of
Snooze
the
fest.
I think it's the same thing that happens every World Cup and every final Champions League is people always expect the finals to be these big extravaganzas, but they always end up being defensive games, right? Very tactical games, and that's exactly what happened here. It was a case of Arsenal. I have to say credit. It was City was the first time that they haven't scored at the Etihad in 4 years, 3 years, something like that. Like they couldn't get through Arsenal whatsoever. The sad thing is we just couldn't break it down, but it really just advantage of Liverpool, right? There's
What
really
happened
nothing.
Yep.
What happened to YT being like, oh, this is the best time to take them on. I'm not afraid.
Oh,
Empty
no.
head. What?
It was a
I'm
very-
not afraid. I'm not
What did he
afraid
say?
to
What
take
did he
the
say?
step.
Big
There's
Lev,
no
what did he
better
say?
time.
No. You
Yeah.
said something. What will they do? What will they do?
Yeah.
We just need our
Look,
fast-paced
bro.
wingers. What
They
will
didn't do
do?
anything, right? The truth is, like they literally made no true chances.
So I caught the last 20 minutes.
Apart from the one that when Haaland completely miskicked it. In
Oh
front
yeah,
well,
yeah. It
no.
would have been offside, fortunately for us, because I saw the review afterwards. But the
Okay.
truth is, like, there was no, the typical City where they do the cutbacks or the perfect crosses to Haaland, like the deep crosses. It just didn't happen. Like I was actually quite impressed with Arsenal, to be honest, defensively. Like the defensive shape, the compactness. City could not break us down.
I caught the last 20 minutes, and Arsenal did park the bus. So
Oh
it
yeah,
makes
well
sense.
the last 20 minutes absolutely, but I'm talking about like really throughout the whole game, it was like there was nothing. Like City had nothing, and it actually gives me more hope for the Champions League, assuming they get past Real Madrid and assuming we get past our own games, Bayern. But big assumption, of course, before anyone jumps down my throat. But I think it was just like it was a very good learning experience for us. Listen, you can't expect to go to City, the treble winners last year, and expect to beat them in an easy game, right? So as far as I'm concerned,
You said that.
of course, I said this is the best time to ever play them, and we did. We didn't lose. We showed ourselves. We had an opportunity to win it if Trossard had his eyes on today, but he forgot his binoculars. It is what it is.
So the question for you is, since you watched the full game, I wanted to know your take on the Roy Keane's comments that Erling Haaland is a League Two striker, or along those lines.
You know what it is? I think that's kind of it's one of those stupid Sky takes.
Yeah.
The thing I agree with is Erling Haaland is probably the best finisher, but he doesn't help in any shape or form with the build-up. So if your team needs help building up, he's never involved, right? It's like
especially this year, like the second half of last year, he was a lot better at holding up the ball and then running back up.
Exactly.
This year, he's not done that, and he has not been as sharp as a finisher. Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
It's still really good. Don't get me wrong, but it's one of those things. But everyone had those. Sometimes you're gonna have the 30 goals plus season, and then very few recapture that. The only one that's been kind of close multiple times was Harry Kane.
Yes.
So do you think that's a tweak from Pep Guardiola of going like, okay, you don't do this build up, you don't come down, you just be in the box, and then I'm gonna put Doku and Grealish are gonna be passing the ball to each other and then crossing it in?
No, I actually disagree. I think it's the opposite of that. I think we always talk about second season syndrome, right? Whether it's the teams coming from the championship up or change of style, the Zerbi, all these things. I think the teams have finally figured out that you're never going to stop him in the box, right? Like you can try your best, but you have to cut off the supply. I think the teams have figured out how to make sure he doesn't get involved in the build-up. So if he doesn't get involved in the build-up, then you don't have that thing where they did to us in the end of last year, like Big Lev was saying, where
Yeah.
he drops, he lays it off to KDB, he runs into the box, KDB, of course, delivers a perfect
Mm.
pass. It's just like he's just, I think all the teams have realized what they're trying to do and they've cut that away from him. So I think it's actually like he needs to adapt. The problem is in the City team, any striker is going to get 20 goals, right? Of course, Haaland is special. So I think it's like they will always create goals. But personally speaking, I think the City team is not as strong as last year's City team. It's just like his lack of involvement, because a lot of times they look like they're playing with 10 men and he's just there by himself. It's like 10 men plus Haaland by himself.
Yeah, I think it's lack of motivation after winning everything, but I also think that because he doesn't get to touch the ball a lot and he doesn't drop down and he doesn't feel the game, that's why when he gets his chance, he misses because he missed a lot of sitters this season. He missed sitters against United, he missed sitters today, he miskicked the ball. And he did a lot of those moments, and I think it's because he's not involved in the game. He doesn't feel the ball. He's not that much of a killer striker. You know, there's type of killer strikers like that. The Inzaghi's, the Van Nistelrooys. They would touch the ball once and it would be in. Like you would, he's a
Yep.
shark in the box. I don't think
Yeah.
he's that of a striker. He was more of what Big Lev said last season. He needs to touch the ball, you need to feel the ball, feel the space. And because he's big, he needs to have the presence, accept the ball,
Yeah.
take a couple of touches, and then shoot. He's not like a one
He's
touch striker.
he's no ox in a box. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I was waiting for it.
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
think just finishing off on Bundesliga before we do predictions. So Bundesliga, there are 7 games left. Leverkusen pulled it out of the bag once again. Patrick Schick, the 90th minute winner. So
Yeah.
7 games left, and the way it stands, Leverkusen only needs to win 4 of the 7. They could lose 3 and win 4, and it's enough. Kane, Harry Kane. Can we
It's
just
so up, bro. You can take Harry Kane out of Tottenham, but you can't take Tottenham out of Harry Kane.
He's
Unless
cursed.
he has to probably just give everything he's got and win Champions League. Because if he moved to Bayern and didn't even win the DFB Pokal, that is just I don't know, some sort of fucking Seinfeld episode at this
Yes.
point, because it's hilarious. It's like Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Like, would anyone have believed you in the beginning of the season to tell them, hey, by the way, he's gonna go to this Bayern Munich team and they're gonna lose everything? It's unbelievable, right?
Not only like lose everything is to the point it's like, oh, he's gonna be competing for the Bundesliga against a team that didn't lose a single game, drew 3. Good
He's
luck.
cursed though. But I do
Yeah.
feel bad for him, especially if I'm hoping in 2 weeks Arsenal will do the number on Bayern, and I have to be honest, that Bayern don't look good, so it's definitely possible. Like, what do you say? There's nothing, right? Like, we all admit he's amazing. It's not his fault at this stage. It wasn't his fault at Tottenham. It's not his fault at Bayern.
At Bayern, I kind of think that it's a bit of him not like the reason why they don't score goals is because the way they play and attack with him in the squad. Because we saw it against the Borussia Dortmund game. He's not playing. Bayern Munich needs a striker who's a striker, and Harry Kane is a floater. So he drops down deep. He goes on the right. He goes on the left. He doesn't stay in a box and is not being this Erling Haaland. I think Erling Haaland in Bayern Munich would be a better move than Harry Kane in hindsight, because he's always behind the ball, and when they attacked against Borussia Dortmund, all their offensive line was behind the ball, so they were just passing across, and the ball wouldn't get anywhere, and they wouldn't make a chance. That's why they didn't score against
Tuchel,
Borussia.
right? That's on the manager to change the setup to make it work. So that's why Tuchel is not surviving the season.
Yeah, and I think they looked better once they removed Sane, once they removed Müller, once they removed I don't remember who else it was, and Gnabry, right? And then they put on Coman.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so they did those, and once they did those changes, they put on more traditional wingers who would actually run, and Harry Kane would still float. They looked more dangerous, and they actually scored from an offside, which wasn't an offside per se. So I think they should have approached this game differently, and they maybe should have approached the season differently, because having Sane, having that so much talent and letting them all be out of shape and not pressed together as a team and just doing each of them doing their individual thing hurts them in the build-up and hurts them going forward, and everyone's behind the ball and everyone's behind the attack, hence they don't score.
Yeah, I agree. I think just to round out for the day, we should do midweek predictions because Premier League is back with a bang, and we have every single team is playing midweek. Over unders, 2.5s, who's to score, winner. So I figured we can do a quick fire round. So first game, Newcastle, Everton. How are we feeling about this game, boys?
I think Newcastle's
Or,
gonna
or
win.
under 2.5 goals, or are we doing like who's gonna win, who's gonna lose? I'm gonna
Okay.
say under Newcastle. Under
You- you-
2.5 goals, Newcastle will win.
So you're essentially saying Newcastle will win either 1-0 or 2-0. They
Yeah.
won't concede. I'm going.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I am going to go over 2.5 with Everton win. I think they're going to finally pull it out of
Oh.
it.
Oh wait,
Mm.
can we say 1x? I think
You
it's
can
gonna
do
be
that.
draw actually.
You can do that too.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 1-1 draw.
Oh,
Oh,
interesting.
I'll go very specific.
Interesting.
Mr. KG?
I'm going with. I don't think it's going to be a Newcastle win. I think it's going to be a draw, closer to a draw. So I would go Everton is not going to lose this game. So
Oh,
Everton either win
interesting.
or draw.
Okay, next game, which I personally think is going to be the game of the week, will be Nottingham Forest at home hosting Fulham. I'm going to go here. I have to say, Fulham looks so good some days and terrible other days. But Forest with that terrible manager, I forgot his name, the former goalie who went to Saudi.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Fulham as well.
Yeah.
But
I'm going
also,
with.
also under 2.5 goals.
Yeah.
I'm going with the opposite. It's going to be over 2.5 goals. That's all I'm going. I don't know who's going to win, but I know there's going to be lots of goals.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I think next game is another relegation candidate, Burnley at home to Wolves. I'm just going to go Wolves, despite the fact that they don't have a senior striker. Wolves are going to win this.
Yeah.
I think
Wolves
Wolves
all day.
Gary O'Neill.
I think it's going to be Wolves and under 2.5 goals. That's
Oh,
what's gonna
interesting.
happen. I think Wolves is going to win 1 or 2-0 because Burnley ran out of their luck, and Wolves, without a proper striker, they're going to get one
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah, I
Or
agree.
2 maybe.
Next game is Bournemouth Crystal Palace. Very weird game because they're both I think what I'd say the stereotypical mid-table teams. They're like, in my mind, they're like number 10, number 11 as far as Premier League. But I'm gonna go with Bournemouth. I think at home they'll be too strong for Crystal Palace.
Yeah, I agree. Bournemouth.
Yeah,
Maybe like a good 2-1, 3-1 win.
Nice.
Yeah, I think
Agreed.
Bournemouth is going to win, and I think it's going to be over 2.5 as well.
Nice. Next game is West Ham at home to Spurs. I think this has the potential of being a fantastic game because neither of the teams can can defend. So I have a feeling this is going to be a very high score game. Like it's going to be one of those 4-3 games. Not sure for who, but that's my feeling.
3-2 for Spurs. I'll tell you
think
that.
Tottenham does that a lot, and Tottenham does that a lot with everyone this season. So they're gonna it's gonna be both teams to score, and I think it's gonna be a lot of goals. I think.
Yeah. Agreed.
I don't know if they're gonna win. Maybe it's gonna be a draw. I'm not hoping for a draw. I'm hoping Tottenham lose points from a United fan's perspective. But yeah.
Next game is Brentford at home to Brighton. Both teams out of form, especially Brentford. So I actually think Brighton are going to finally pick this game because Brentford have lost, I think, 15 of the last 18 games.
Interesting. I think it's going to be a draw.
Oh, interesting. Next game is Arsenal v Luton. And I think if you guys say anything unexpected, we're going to have a real fight here.
No.
I think Luton's going to score. That's
Yeah.
what I think.
To score, okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't know, bro. Like Arsenal's defense very good.
No, I think it's time.
Probably an Arsenal win. Like there's potential for upset as in any game, but I don't see it as anything else. But I don't think it's gonna be a high scoring Arsenal win.
Yeah, I think we're gonna be a little more reserved, especially because we have to play 2 games a week for the rest of the year, essentially.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be like Arsenal's gonna win essentially by 1 goal, but I think they're gonna concede against Luton.
Ooh, they're not going to concede. Next game, I think this has the potential to be a firecracker and a title decider, which is Man City versus Aston Villa. So, sadly, I can't tell. My heart wants to say Aston Villa will get a draw, but my brain says Man City is going to take this like 4 goals or something like that.
I'm going to say Aston Villa will get a draw. I kind of feel it's a perfect thing for upset. Because they have to play Real soon. They had this. They're playing well, but like they should have lost for sure against Liverpool. They played like meh today. Is this a potential for upset? Of course, they're favorites. I think it could happen. Like a good 2-2 draw.
Ooh,
I think City's gonna
juicy 2-2 draw.
City's gonna break your hearts. They're gonna win this one either 2-0 or 2-1. It's gonna be close, but they're gonna win.
Don't worry, our hearts can't be broken. They've broken our hearts so many times with
And
91st
it's their
minutes
last.
Rodri equalizers.
I
Like,
think it's their last like important game in the Premier League. I only see them maybe not being able to pull it out against Nottingham Forest away just because Nottingham Forest will need points, but that's in the end of it. So
that's
yeah,
a wild take. Next game
yeah,
I think is another. Might as well call it a bye game because it's Liverpool at home against Sheffield United. I think the real question is how many times will Darwin Núñez hit the post before he scores? Because this is going to be a trouncing, right? There's no other result.
yeah, I think so too.
Darwin's a hat trick, bro. Darwin's a 2024.
And I think the final midweek game is, of course, the best. Is the battle of the two mediocres, the battle of the two useless managers. It's Chelsea at home to Man United. Mr. KG, I hate to ask, but how do you predict this going?
I mean, I have to say Man United's gonna win. I mean, if you can't win, like I ridiculed Poch for losing to Company, I'm gonna ridicule Ten Hag for losing to Poch in this Chelsea side. But in terms of a prediction, I'll probably go both teams to score. I think they're so bad that both
Yeah,
of them are gonna score, and I think my heart says that United's gonna win. But in reality, if you would ask me what to do, what do you think is the most realistic outcome? I'm gonna say that Mudrik or someone's gonna score a howler to Onana, and then Hoyund's probably gonna score one if he claws it himself out because he's always alone in the field. So yeah,
yeah. Big Left. This is what we called traumatized. Yeah,
yeah,
KG's just been traumatized by this team. But I agree. I think neither of the defenses can do anything. So it's going to be a
yep,
lot of goals. As long as there's decent finishing, it's going to be lots of goals. I'm
yep.
going Palmer to score another penalty.
Oh yeah,
And
that's
continue his tradition. I think that's a wrap for today's episode. We're going to be doing, of course, a review of the midweek games and the weekend games and a Champions League preview, as well as a fixtures for the top three next week. So that's
yep.
a goodbye from me.
See you guys next week.
Goodbye, YT.